simplifying rates, unit cost, and fuel consumption. So we've mostly been looking at rates in terms of cost to go to the gym, so cost per week, in terms of heart rate, so beats per minute. There's a couple of rates that are really quite important. One of those is unit cost. Now, the unit cost is the cost for one of something. Or cost per unit. So that's a rate, a relationship between cost and number of things, and it's really good for comparing the price of anything, really. We can also do cost per week or cost per day, all sorts of things like that. So there's a couple of examples here. Write your rate as money first, so cost for how many things. And then the idea is to get that down to the cost for just one thing. So this is the cost for 12 bananas. I want to get that down to the cost for one banana. And as we've done before, right underneath it, one banana. And then to get from 12 bananas to one banana, you've got to divide by 12. And so we'll do the same thing on this side. So that was 32 divided by 12, 2.66666. So it's money, we've got to round to 2 decimal places. That will be $2.67 for one banana. And to write it as a rate, you can just write $2.67 per banana. Or honestly, I'd accept this as our rate answer as well. So it works out what you're paying for one banana. And then you could use that to solve problems. If they said, well, what would it cost for 10 bananas? You could multiply the unit cost by 10 to get the amount for 10 bananas. Sometimes they try to trick you and they say you just bought three books for $7. And it's always a good idea to do cost per thing. So put the cost first when you write it. $7 for 3 books. We want to get that down to how much it is for one book. This was, to get from 3 to 1, divide by 3. So I've got to do divided by 3 here as well. 7 divided by 3, $2.33 for one book. So this is unit cost. It's really useful for solving problems and working out what you're paying per item. Put the cost first, write it like this and simplify it down, and things will work pretty well. Now, fuel consumption is one that often comes up, and it's given as a pretty weird rate. It's given as litres per 100 kilometres. So unlike most rates, when we want to get it litres, for one thing, it's in litres per 100 kilometres. And obviously, the smaller the amount of petrol that you use to go 100 kilometres, the more efficient your car is and the less it costs you to run. And that unit is litres per 100 kilometres. And the best way, you'll get questions like this where you normally travel 530 kilometres on a 55-litre tank. What's that fuel consumption? The best way to do it is to get litres for 1 kilometre, then multiply by 100 to get to 100 kilometres. So when I'm travelling 530 kilometres on a 55-litre tank, always put it in order, litres for 100 kilometres. So our litres must come first. 55 litres for 530 kilometres. Get down to 1 kilometre. So we know this trick. This is to go from 530 to 1. We're dividing by 530. So we're going to do the same there, which will get us a pretty small amount. 55 divided by 530, 0.10377. So keep quite a few decimal places, like at least 4. So that's not very much of a litre to go 1 kilometre. But we want to multiply by 100 on both sides. So times 100 here gets you 100 kilometres, and times 100 here, you've already got it in your calculator, so just do times 100, gets us 10.38 litres for 100 kilometres. So as a rate in litres per 100 kilometres, this is 10.38 litres per 100 kilometres. That is the fuel efficiency of that car on that trip. And then you'd have the information to solve all sorts of problems. Like if it said, how many litres of petrol would you use to go 500 kilometres? You could come back to this one and times by 500, or you could come to this one and times by 5. All sorts of methods of working out problems, which we will come back to later when we're looking at fuel consumption in more detail.